Hey there, welcome back. So today you are in luck because we are working on a masterpiece. Check this out. Boom, Starry Night. Now, if you're not familiar with this piece, then where you been? Quarantined your whole life? Come on. This is Vincent van Gogh's greatest masterpiece, his most well-known painting of all time. And today we're gonna do it with just crayons. So I guess we can call ourselves Crayon Gogh. Anyways, let's look at the supplies we're going to need for today. We're going to go ahead and we're going to have a yellow, orange, red, blue. Now, if you don't have two shades of blue, which I do, I have a light blue and a dark blue, then just color lighter, then color harder. We have a light green and green, likewise. Color lighter and harder if you don't have the two. And lastly, we have a nice black crayon for outlining. So let's go ahead and look at the painting and sort of see what makes it so popular. Well, first off, we can really see every sort of mark in the sky moving around there. We see these nice bright stars and a nice stark black cypress tree right there. Those nice pointy trees that are super tall. And then we have this nice calm, sleeping almost, village beneath. So what do we see here? Really, we have the sort of sanctuary that is our home and is our civilization and our cities, sort of tucked beneath this kind of wild outside sky going on. And so this is going to be a really fun painting, and we really want to try to get all of that energy into it. And so that's what we're going to talk about as we go over it. Now, everybody can join in with this one. We're still doing the classes Monday through Friday for kids, but hey, if you're a parent, if you're anybody else like that, then please step in and, challenge yourself. We're only going to spend about an hour here, but I guarantee you, this is going in a frame afterwards. So, without further ado, let's get going. Alright. So, let's check it out. Up here, we're looking at the cypress tree. I'm going to go ahead and put that in first by grabbing my black crayon. Now, in the original painting, it's going about a third of the way into the piece of paper. I'm going to just basically draw a stick figure tree first. And I'm going to start about a third of the way in, about an inch down, and I'm just going to go down. I'm going to give it a little wiggle. Now, I gave it that little wiggle because I want it to be asymmetrical, which means not exactly the same on both sides. Now, to get the leaf on top, we're going to go ahead and make sort of a dagger or pointed shape out of this line. So watch this. Come down and then sort of tuck back in. Kind of like we have this sort of teardrop going on. Now, the bottom of the tree is very easy to find after that. We're just going to go ahead and zoop. Look at that. It's almost like a round teardrop with another sort of parenthesis right there. The other side, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. Let's go down and then give it another one of those. Now notice, it's not even on both sides. The idea is this is a tree. It's living and it's moving in the wind that is displayed in those spirals in the background. And so we want it to feel a little uneven, a little bit turbulent. And so now let's go ahead and put in the rest of the leaves. Now, you don't have to be too careful on where you put the leaves or how you put the leaves. It's more about just the technique I use. So what I've been doing is just sort of exiting from the actual tree and going up to a spike and then coming back in. Now, here we go. Boom. And I'll do perhaps two down here. There we go. And over here, we want to do the same thing, but make it a little bit asymmetrical, so meaning not exactly the same as you did on the other side. And there we go, we got ourselves a nice little tree. Let's do one more. And all of ours, I expect to look 100% different. So there we go, we got one of the main features of the painting already in there. The next thing I'm going to do is get in that steeple. Now what's a steeple? Steeple is that triangular shape that looks like a top hat that's very stretched out, and this the top of a church. So what we're going to do is about a third of the way up the paper, if we could imagine, and just a little bit away from our tree, we're going to do just a short horizontal line. Now to make sure that our steeple is nice and even, and that we plan out the top of it, we're going to find the center and go up just about shy of the center of the page. Put a dot. Now from that dot, we can just connect a line down and a line down. Woo! You did it! Perfect. All right, 2 parallel lines. So right here, we're going to tuck in a little, like that, and do 2 parallel lines. Now it looks as if the steeple is setting on top of a building. Now we're going to do like a classic house shape right here. So let's go ahead and right under that steeple, just like we've, basically one of the first things I think most of us learn to draw. Classic little house right there. Now we're going to do 2 of these. So let's go ahead and do 1 more. And of course, if you want to, you can add as many as you'd like. At the end of the day, this is still your world right here. So even if it's inspired by Van Gogh, then, feel free to add some more, put a McDonald's in there, whatnot. But now that we have these 2 sort of front view of the houses, we're going to make them 3D. We're going to show the side view as well. So check this out. With 3 lines going horizontal, 1 here, 1 here, a little shorter, and 1 here. Then a nice straight line, and a line that goes at the same angle as that other one. So let's do that again on the other house. So we'll do a straight line, straight line, straight line, then we'll do a vertical, and we'll go down like that. And look at that, we have 2 houses now that we can see 2 sides of it, the front and then the side there, and even the roof. So let's go ahead now and add 2 more down here. Now these ones, we're going to start by doing the side of the house first. So what I'm going to do is right about halfway between the edge of the paper and the tree, I'm going to put in 2 pretty much what I'll just call boxes. So let's go ahead and just put boom. And now I'm going to do them 2 different shapes. And remember, you can get creative, make them as tall as you want. And then I'm going to go ahead and put the roof on them. Now the roof we want to do at an angle, so I'm going to go like that. And I'm going to do this same line right there on all those spots. So we have 4 of those angled lines. Now all we need to do is close off the top so that we don't get any rain inside our buildings. Got a nice solid roof. And then we'll go ahead and put this angle right here. Boom. And look how that's just supposed to mirror what's happening right there. So let's do that here too. And then once we're at that point, let's go straight down. Look at that. Now we're getting a really full city here. Let's put in 2 more buildings while we're at it. And these ones are easy peasy ones. Check this. So all we need to really do is draw a box. So I'm just going to kind of pick a spot, draw a little box, and then I'm going to just put a line. There we go. We've got our little house there, and you can put the bottom. You can put the bottom on all if you like. Now this is a house from side view though. So that's the roof, and that's the side of the house. Let's do another one back here. Another box. There we go. And then look how easy. Just a line across and we have the roof there. Okay, look at that. We've got our whole city ready down there. We've got our tree. So let's go ahead and put in where we want the mountains to be. Now, they're going to be about a third of the way up, so right about here. And if we look at the example, they rise as they go across. How I do it is 1 hill and then 3 hills, each getting bigger as they go. Now at the end of the day though, don't overthink this. So let's just go for it. About a third of the way up, up and over. There we go. Now let's come out here and rise with a hill, up, down, up, and out. So there we go. Alrighty, great job. Great job. Okay, I think we can put our black crayon down now. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to start to work on the sky. We're going to start to get some of the shapes up there that will make it easier to get some of that coloring that's everywhere. So let's look at the example. We have a big moon over here, and then right dead center we have this swirl right there. This is really the focal point of the painting, and this is what contributes to so much of the feelings that we get when we look at it. So that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with that central point. Now, what I see when I look at that is like a yin-yang, like a balance. Let's go ahead and grab our light blue crayon here. So with our light blue crayon, we're going to find right about the center of the page. And if your tree is kind of in the way, then just scoot over a little bit and follow me with this next step. We're going to go ahead and do a sad face into a smiley face. So just like this, right about in the center of the sky, sad face to a smiley face. Just like that. So now what we'll do, and this is how I've always seen it since I was a kid. I've always been very into this painting because it just has this sort of animated, surreal feel to it. Is now I see kind of this worm traveling through the sky, kind of like an earthworm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now kind of keep heading up this smile that we just drew and follow along like that, and watch as I'm mimicking that curve below. So it's the same curve. From here to the other side, I'm just going to make a big smiley face. So like that, behind the tree and up and out. With the top, we just want to do the same thing that we do at the bottom. So like that, behind the tree, up and out. See what I mean? It's like a big earthworm kind of reaching in there. This bottom part, we want to look at this like it's going to be a complete circle. So we can imagine that there's a circle right here. So let's come out of the sad face that we had done. There we go. And we'll stop just before we make the circle complete. Stop right before. Now, we're going to think about a snail shell. You know that spiral in the shell? We're going to mimic that right here. We're going to continue this line. We're just going to turn into a little spiral, just like that. Almost there. All we have to do is just close in this shape. And we're going to do that with another circle, which will start right here, coming out of the smile again, coming around, and tucking right in. There we go. Just like that, you've gotten that complex shape in the sky. From here, everything else is going to be really, really easy, I promise you. So let's next put in the bit of cloud that's right above the mountains. We see that it's just sort of a wavy reflection of what's happening with the hills. So let's go ahead and just right here, kind of right above, make sure to leave enough space though so that you can put stars into your sky. And there we go. The moon. Let's start with the biggest there, because it just kind of plants right there in the corner. I'm just going to go ahead and do a light circle here. Nice and light. A big old circle. That's where the moon will live in. With the stars, go crazy. Put them wherever you want. There's no right or wrong spot. I'm just going to pick a few places on my page which just feel right to me. I'm kind of just looking for openings in the sky. And they don't all have to be the same shape or anything. So let's look at that. All right, perfect. We're all doing such a great job here. So let's go ahead and put this crayon down now. What we see is we've basically created a coloring book here that we can move forward after the next step and just start really coloring in everything. Before we do that, let's work with our green. We're going to put in a little bit of trees down below in the city. I'm going to use my light green to start with, and I'm really only going to use it in one spot. And it's going to be right where the hills meet the ground. So we want to decide that. For me, it's going to be, if I was to go over to this house that's right next to that steeple, I'm just going to kind of go over here in a straight line and then do a little bit of this green, do an angle, and then close off with another straight line there. And then I'm just going to color that in. And I encourage you to color it in nice and bright. The harder you push, the more vibrant your drawing will look in the end. All right, we can go ahead and put that green down, done with that. So for the trees we're going to put in, we want to do these really, really simply. If you took the lesson where we learned how to draw a tree, then you already know that we can just kind of think of like the top of clouds, sort of bubbly. So we're going to simplify this and just boom, boom. There we go, a little tree there. Let's go ahead and put a little trees there. And then maybe some back here. And if you put them in the distance, put a little flat line to indicate that they're hitting the ground. So there we go. And lastly, I want to put some over here, boom, 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 kind of going all behind the steeple, right at the base of the hills. And then we'll put some all surrounding that bright green patch. Over here, you can go ahead and put in a little bit. All right, perfect. So, let's jump right into the coloring fun here. Well, we have our green crayon in hand. So, what we love so much about Van Gogh is that he's not looking at what he's painting and making it perfectly like a photograph, right? He's really making art out of it, so to speak. He's making you feel things, and the way he does that is the way that he puts his marks on the paper. So what he's normally doing is he's letting you see each mark he makes, and he's in that action letting you see sort of the direction they're going. So what we'll do as we fill in parts of this drawing is we'll follow the outline and we'll sort of mimic it with our coloring. So if I'm going and coloring in the trees, which you can go ahead and start doing now, then I'm gonna, not strictly, but for the most part, be filling it in, kind of mimicking the sort of bubbly top there. As you're filling it, you don't have to get every little speck of your paper. It's okay if there's a little bit of white between. It'll help for making the painting, or rather the drawing, seem a little bit more dynamic and painterly and getting that effect, because we want, again, to see some of that scritchy scratchy. This is one of those art classes where, you know, scribbling, going out of the line a little bit, is actually encouraged. It's not gonna hurt the drawing, it'll only help it. Look at that. So what we should be doing now is just getting every one of these trees filled in so that they're a nice green. If you're going over the light green like I am right now, just press harder if you're having trouble with it. And remember, if you feel like I'm going too fast or you just want to put a little bit more attention to detail into your picture, you can go ahead and press pause, and I will sure be right here when you get back. Okie doke, let's go to the tree. Even though we're gonna color it black in the end, we want a little bit of color to show through. What we want to indicate is that during the daytime, this is a green cypress tree. So mimicking, again, the edges here, that sort of curve, we're gonna just kind of put some scribbly crayon in there. Now, I really do mean that. Just kind of scribble it in there. No right or wrong. I'm not filling it up, and I'm putting it mostly on the left side here, and just a little over here. Just a little scribble here and there. Perfect, perfect. You'll only see a little bit of that in the end, as you can see. So, if you've got that on there, then we are ready to go to the next step. Let's go ahead and put that green crayon back. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna go up to the moon and the stars. And we're gonna take our orange crayon and we're gonna go ahead and draw those in before we go and put the yellow surrounding them. Let's start with the easy stuff. The stars. So for the stars, I really just start with a squiggle, spiral, spin, 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 and then I just stop before I get to the edge. Now each one, make them a little bit different size. That one could be a little smaller, this one could be small, and really the idea is that it's okay to see your crayon lines. This is not a flat color. It wants to feel like it's moving, like it's bursting with energy, right? Over where the moon is, now that we've got our stars in, we're gonna just draw a big letter C. So check this out. Ooh, big old letter C. So now that we have that, we're gonna turn it into a moon by going on the inside and making this sort of crescent where we start real close to each other and then we spread out and we get right back close to each other. Go ahead and fill that moon in. And you can fill that moon in sort of going in the direction of the curves so that everything in the drawing reflects that kind of wiggly, scribbly movement. If we do that consistently and make that statement, then it's not wrong. It's actually right. Lastly, let's go ahead and put in a little bit of orange on the tree right here. Just a little scribble on this side, not a whole lot. Mimicking the edge of that tree. Right now it just looks all sloppy. Don't gotta worry, just let that be a sloppy tree right now. And then let's put some windows in the buildings. And for that, I just do like little rectangles. You can put as many little windows as you want. There's no right or wrong amount. It just adds a nice little vibrancy down here when you can see in the end, it's got a lot of those dark blues and greens. With that, let's go ahead and put that orange crayon down. Let's pick up that yellow one. Let's fill our stars. We're gonna fill them in the same way that we did the orange, in this sort of circular motion coming from the middle and exiting. Now when you get to the edge, right as you get to the blue, I want you to then do a couple just scratchy lines that follow that circular motion, but exit the circle. So scribble, 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 and then a little bit of scribble outside of there. So it's kind of like the light is all in the circle, but then just like light does, it travels outside of that space and it starts to spill outward. So there we go. Now it's like they're bursting right out, right? So we're doing that to each one here. Spiral, spiral, spiral. And then a couple of those bursting lines. This is looking so great. I'm so happy you all came out and joined me today. And especially today is great. This is different from our Monday through Friday classes that we're doing. This is one where really, honestly, anybody could join in and really feel enriched and at any level of skill. So everybody, I want you to feel that you could join in. And also, we're going to be starting a community page on our Facebook. I would love you to leave comments and pictures there, and as well on our YouTube where you're watching this. Okay, let's look at the moon. Now that we've got all these stars nice and bright, vibrant, bursting out of the seams, we're going to do the same to the moon. So I'll start in the center. Scribble, scribble, scribble. Spiral, spiral, spiral. How fun is this? Just to sort of kind of scribble and not worry about having to be perfectly in the lines. This is really fantastic. All right, so there we go. And then I'm going to spill right out the edges. Press down really hard, because the harder you press, the brighter your drawing will be, right? And we want to put this in a frame after. We want to be really proud of this. All right, if you've gone and gotten all of those light bodies in the sky filled in with yellow, you can go ahead and put your crayon back. Let's talk about the sky, because this is really where we think of Van Gogh as, his most sort of signature move. This is like his big trick. And it's the feeling of movement, just using paintbrush strokes, right? What he's trying to do is he's trying to capture the feeling of wind pushing through the sky. And this is something we can't normally see. Now, what he's tapping into, that he didn't even know he was tapping into, is a physics law, the law of turbulence. Now, turbulence, it can't be seen so easily in the wind, but we can study it in water. Let's imagine a stream. Let's imagine that stream flowing. We got our water going, so you can see my hands pushing that way. Now, just like the stars across the sky, imagine we throw pebbles in the stream. So now we've thrown some pebbles in there. What happens? Well, the water has to divert around the pebbles, and then it meets back together and keeps flowing. That's how we're going to look at the sky, almost as if it's flowing water, and we're thinking of our crayon strokes as the current. All right, so with that said, let's go ahead and just start having fun with it. I'm going to grab my darker blue first. Now, I'm going to use actually the blunt edge of the crayon, that back side of it. And if you need a little bit more space on it, you can always peel off some of that crayon clothes. Remember, a naked crayon is an artistic crayon, so we don't want to get too worried about our crayons being in a perfect condition. It's what happens on the page that matters. Let's start with the moon. Watch how quickly I can fill space using the back of the crayon. I'm going to still use kind of short lines, but each one of them is going to follow the curve of the circle I'm around. So see how I'm kind of radiating almost like a whirlpool in water around that moon. I'm pressing very, very hard. Now, you'll notice if you start to go into the yellow, it'll make green. That's okay. It's okay to have a little bit of that. You don't want to have a whole lot of it. So what I choose to do is go in mostly the white areas, but here and there, get just a little bit of that blend going. What should start happening is it's going to start making this moon feel really bright now, trapped in there, all that nice dark blue. So what's happening? Now we're starting to run in to other stars. So I'll just start circling around the other star and feeding my marks into the direction of the last marks. You'll also notice that there's a bit of the white paper beneath. That's okay, because we want to see the individual marks, and we're going to come back over with one more tint of that blue. Now, here we go. What you saw me do there was just basically following the curve of the clouds down on the bottom. I'm going to keep going ahead and fill in around the stars, so you go ahead and follow along with me as we go. And remember, if I go too fast for you, please just hit pause and catch yourself up here. So here we go. We're going to keep filling. Now, Van Gogh. What do we know about Mr. Van Gogh? Well, he didn't always want to be an artist. He didn't, that wasn't his first idea of things to be in life. Although he did come from a family of artists, art dealers specifically, so they sold art. He didn't really have ambitions to be an artist. His family was also extremely religious, and his father was a priest, and so that's actually what Van Gogh thought his first calling was to go be a minister. And so that's what he did up until his mid-20s. His main assignment that he's most remembered for was going to these mines over in Belgium. Now, you have to imagine why he went here. He went here to raise morale, to give people some spirit, because this was really, really hard work working in a mine. What would typically happen is someone would wake up, crack of dawn, before the sun has even risen. They'd get ready for work, they'd go down into the mine, into the darkness, and they'd work all day. By the time they were done, they'd come out of the mine, it would already be dark again outside. They'd go back home and they'd eat dinner. Now, they were not making a lot of money at all. This was not, necessarily a fair wage system. They ate primarily potatoes and had to drink primarily what they could find, water. And the thing is that Van Gogh was there to be there for them, to be their sort of support, their lean on. But we all kind of know how Van Gogh is, right? He's a sensitive character. And so it was a little rough for him. He was more susceptible almost than them. We found him living in the same conditions as them, kind of lowering himself down in a almost Jesus type way to try to be there on the same level as them. But, although that is a humble thing to do, sometimes it's not the most helpful thing to do. So let's take a moment and reassess where we're at with our drawing. So you can see that we've covered that whole sky and it has that movement. I circled around every star. I also am trying to go to the edge of any obvious circles, like how we made the circle for the star. I'm going right to the edge to make sure that it's not obvious that we drew a circle in the beginning. Okie doke. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put in our mountains. Same crayon, but first we want to put in a straight line right at the base of them. So right there and right there. So like with the rest of the drawing, we want to pay attention to the direction we color it. We're going to go diagonals. You can just do it like this. You don't even have to lift the crayon. Almost imagine it being diagonal, because that's how it is to climb a hill, right? You have to kind of go at an angle right up it. So in a very, very simple way, we're indicating that this is a hill you have to climb. All right, and we're going all the way across. Remember to go past the tree to the other side. Don't worry too much if you color inside your tree, because we're going to color that black, and black pretty much covers everything at the end of it. Okay, let's do the ground now. The difference here than with the mountains is we're going to go side to side, and I'm still using the flat of my crayon. If you're looking at me and thinking, wow, how is he covering so much space so fast? Like, hold on, hold on. Well, it really is just me using the flat of the crayon and honestly not being that careful. Van Gogh was known for doing his paintings, every single one of them, in a single day, often in one sitting. So, he'll sit there, start it, and finish it before he even gets up. That was the case with this very painting. And to this very day, everybody is so inspired by it. Okay, so now we have blue in the mountains and blue all over the ground. Let's go ahead and put this crayon back. We're going to grab the light blue. First things first, let's color in our houses. These houses are basically just getting washed in some of that blue light from the night. So we're just going to go nice up and down. You don't have to color too hard. And I'm going to go through each house here, including the steeple in the back. And I'm just going to give it that nice light blue color there. Look at that. And I'm surrounding the orange, go right to the edge. And you can see as I do that, it makes it feel as if there's a little light in there. Sounds like there's a siren going by. Let's give them good thoughts. Alrighty, so now we're filling that in. And we're moving right to the edge. And I'm also going to do the rooftops too. And just like with everything, think about the direction you're coloring. So when I get to the rooftops, I'm going to give them a nice diagonal. Now you may be thinking, ah, man, I'm getting like all lost in my drawing, like I'm losing the clarity. We're going to, at the very end of this, re-outline it so it will pop just like it does in that example there. So don't worry about things like that. Let's go back into the sky. What we're going to do is we're going to focus on the area that I had called the worm earlier. We're going to use short marks that follow the direction of the worm, and I like to think of this as like cars, like traffic traveling. And we're just going to go right down the worm, and then we're going to take a U-turn and go right back up the worm. So check this out. I'm going to use the blunt edge and just sort of here and there. I put a little bit more as I start, and as I get towards the circle right here, then I lessen up. Little less, little softer, kind of like peppery right there. And then I'll keep going. And then now I'll pass the tree, and I'll get a little bit denser with them, add a little bit more, so that the idea is that it's a little darker blue, and then it gets a little brighter right there. Perfect. You all are doing such a great job. I bet you didn't think you were going to wake up today and do a masterpiece, huh? Well, so many things these days are really just catching us off guard. Let's go ahead and do that now down beneath. These little lines. Not too much though, don't want to overdo it. And then we'll go right into that spiral here. Just pushing some of those little lines. Awesome. Little goes a long way. Let's do the clouds down the bottom. And with these, same idea. Just pushing that crayon in. And really kind of thinking of it as a nice blend of the white and of that blue that we're adding right now. We really want to see these crayon marks, and we want to see them be dynamic. We want to see them going with the flow of the wind that's implied there. There we go, climbing right up and out the page. We are getting so close to done with this. Look at how we have color everywhere. You're doing such a great job for sticking in with this. Really, I'd say now we're heading into the finishing touches of this project. What we're going to do is we're going to put this same light blue we're holding into the deeper blue of the sky. And just in the same way we did before, the idea is that now we'll have a variety of blue up there. And just color right over what you did. And the idea is also try to get some of those white spots that were left earlier. You don't have to completely get rid of them. And you don't have to be too, overtly obsessive about this. Really, the idea is that you want it to have a blend of the two colors. It just makes it look more dynamic, makes it look more busy, and heck, it's fun. Why not just give it another coat? It's going to make it nice and bright to hang up on the wall. So, Van Gogh, after his sort of stint, trying to help those in need, he sort of then had to do some self-reflecting, and that self-reflecting ended up on a sketch pad. A lot of his early works were drawings, and then his early paintings were very dark paintings. He painted things like the people he saw in the mines, browns, blacks, dirty paintings, just images of, say, a dirty pair of shoes, or, someone with really dirty hands working in the mud. He was really painting the people he saw around him and trying to capture in art the feelings that it gave him seeing these people working so hard. I'm going to give one more coat to the ground and the mountains too. Remember, you don't need a whole lot, so just enough is enough. So as Van Gogh started to develop his artistic talent well into his 20s, so he was a late bloomer. So a lot of hope for everybody out there that's, a late bloomer in any field that they're going into afresh. His brother was the most supportive person for him on earth. He wrote letters to him every day, and together, it was what really encouraged Van Gogh to keep painting, because he was a kind of isolated guy and he was prone to sadness. And when you're sad, sometimes you don't feel like you want to paint. You don't feel like what you're doing is even that good. Well, good thing his brother loved him, and his brother really encouraged him and even bought him the supplies to keep painting. So let's go ahead now and back to this. What we're going to do now is we're going to take our orange one last time, and we're just going to put in a couple last marks now that we've gotten everything so filled. Right around the moon. Nice orange scratches. Now don't overdo it. This is just supposed to mirror some of those motions that are happening in the sky. Look how this kind of ties it all together. So now it's sort of this whirlpool from within the moon outward into the blue. You could do a little bit on the stars, not a whole lot, not super necessary. Alright, and then what I do just to throw in a little bit of accent is here and there, I'll just, in the sky, put a little orange. Not a whole lot, like I'm talking maybe 20 marks or so, just to add a little extra sauce here and there. And then one or two within the area in the sky. There we go. Done. Done, son, with that crayon. Alrighty, now it's time to pick up our black crayon. We're really going in for the finishing touch. After this black crayon, there is nothing else to do unless it's just little things you feel like you want to add. So let's go ahead and let's start in the tree. Now we have the green and we have the orange, and you're going to color right over them and just letting little peaks between the black, let that kind of sneak out so that the viewer gets an idea of the color, but not necessarily like you gotta make it bright green. So you'll see as I go. And just like as with the rest of the drawing, I'm going ahead and following my crayon strokes in the direction of the tree. So primarily upwards and curving to match any of the leaves that are going out into the sky. If you're having trouble, sort of coloring over another color, just go harder. Black will cover everything, no problem. So don't want any little gaps or to, give up because we can't color over another color. Crayons are an amazing thing I've learned. I mean, this could have been just as famous a painting, probably just done with crayons. Speaking of the painting, so this was one of his, I'd say, finales. So Van Gogh, he started painting in earnest around 29, and he didn't even make it to 40 years old. But he made so many paintings because he was so obsessed with just seeing this vision in his head, this vision that honestly no one else even saw. So when he had painted this original Starry Night, he was actually going through a bit of sadness, and he was in a hospital for that, for being sad, and he was being taken care of. And part of that, for them to take care of him, was they realized that he needed to keep working. And so, looking outside his window one night, he saw the cypress tree, he saw the city below, and remembering also his hometown, he combined the two and he created this sort of surreal vision of, this idea that, we are this sort of calmness down here where the city is. But then as we go upward with this natural tree into the sky, everything seems to almost be out of our control, right? Spinning, swirling, chaotic. But we come back down to that steeple, right? That place where we find that relief. And then on to the homes with the nice lights and warmth inside. Something, he was searching for something, and that something is definitely been found by so many that have looked at his work. So we're going to go in with the last little bits of outline. Now what this is for is basically any black line that we had drawn originally, just make it darker, make it nice and bold. So I'm starting with my hills back here. Perfect. One thing I'm going to do following the top of the hills is I'm just going to do a couple diagonal lines coming from the top, and I'm going to stop right about the steeple. There we go. Speaking of which, let's outline the steeple so it really stands out. Same with the buildings. And you do not have to be perfect. Notice how my outline is not like ruler perfect or anything. It's actually quite scribbly. And because that's the style he was trying to express. So when Van Gogh actually finished this painting, just like we're doing, just going, and then he was done and he was like, voila, Van Gogh has made his greatest masterpiece. Then he showed his brother, and his brother was like, dude, throw it away, that is garbage, man. And Van Gogh's like, what? And he was like, yeah, dude, I think that you searched way too far for style and you've lost sight of what's really in front of you. What did he know, right? So took a while, but people eventually saw the vision that Van Gogh had here of taking what you see in front of you and saying, hey, I can inject upon that. I could make it more. I could put feeling in it, right? And so let's put a couple more lines and then we're done. I'm going to put just a couple lines on the roof. He liked to do a lot of these little scratch lines here and there just for textural change and differences. Let's outline our trees. Just sort of that loose, sort of cloudy, bubbly feel. Don't have to go over the top crazy with them or anything. There we go. And the ones back here, you don't want to forget about those. I always imagine that's a little park back there or something. Nice little place to walk a dog. Alright, so last but not least, we're going to finish it out with just peppering the sky with some black. This will help make it feel like it's a little darker. So look how much I add, kind of right there into the blue itself. Not like so much that you can't tell it's blue, but enough so that now the painting actually looks a little bit more like nighttime. And as a result, putting this last bit of black in, just nice and light, remember, not too rough with it, it really makes the stars brighter, makes the clouds brighter, makes everything else in the drawing really come much more to life. So, any second, you're going to be done with this, and I am so proud of you. As I was saying earlier, please share with us the work that you've done. We cannot wait to get to the next lesson, which is going to be on Monday. So tune back in. That's a more bite-sized one, a nice little 20-minute digestible one. Thank you all so much. I got to get Van going, and I'm sure you do too. So until next time, doodle on.